Hi, I'm Joey B, and I'm in Ridley Creek State Park in Media, Pennsylvania. And 1 year ago, I stood right here and started this channel, Joey B Running. And that's to mainly chronicle my journeys in running ultramarathons. And now, a year later, I'm here to recap the very best of the year. This is Joey B's Best in Ultra Running 2024. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, who is Joey B? I've never heard of you. Why should I watch this video? Who are you supposed to be, David Goggins? Oh no, I'm just some guy. But a year ago, I was some guy who's never done ultras before and wondering if he could. Now, I'm some guy who's done 5 ultramarathons, each one harder than the last, pretty much. So, if you're planning some races on the East Coast of America, you could think of this like as a brochure for races you might be interested in. Or hiking. I mean, you could hike at any of these places that I've raced. Now, if it's a film critic, you would expect them to have seen the movie, right? So I'm only gonna be reviewing races that I did this year. But without further ado, let's introduce the nominees. First, in the month of March, representing the state of Maryland, we have the Hat Run 50K in Susquehanna State Park, Havre de Grace, Maryland. Then in May, we went out to the state of West Virginia for the first ever West Virginia Trail Fest for the Full Moon 60K. In the month of June, we started Summer Ultras with the Sharp Top 50K in the town of Maston, Pennsylvania. The best representative of the East Coast would come in August with the state of Maine for the Blue Hill Mountain 50K. And finally, on September 8th, representing the state of Connecticut, we have the Macedonia 50K in Macedonia Brook State Park. You know, I've liked hiking and photography for a number of years. I really like getting out in nature and seeing those great vistas and seeing sights that I've never seen before. And so that's something I really look for in a race. And I'm not just gonna sign up for anything. So I would say that all 5 of these races are amazing looking. They all looked great. It was really close, but I am going to have to give the award for best looking course to the state of Connecticut, the Macedonia 50K. Now, what really put this over the top was, I guess, in the editing room and looking over the footage of all these races, but the times that my jaw dropped the most seemed to be in Connecticut. It just seemed like every single inch of the course was just jam-packed with raw, natural beauty, just like overgrown almost without being too much. You know, the wallpaper on my phone is just this for months, and every time I look at it, I'm just like, my God, that is so beautiful. I mean, it was just utterly stunning in every direction. All right, next up we have Best Ultra Starter Course, or we could also say Best Beginner Course, or the easiest course. Now this is important because if you're thinking about running an ultramarathon for the first time, you want to be making sure you're not biting off more than you can chew. And that's what I did, and it served me very well because I did 5 ultras this year. If I had done any of the other 4 first, bad news. I don't know if I finish. And I think, hey, maybe I can't do this sort of thing. And the best ultra starter course goes to the state of Maryland, the Hat Run 50K. Now, when I say easy, well, that's relative. That's compared to the other races I did. Had the perfect blend of generous difficulty for a first-time ultramarathon. I mean, it had elevation. It was over 4,000 feet, so that's not nothing. And it was out on the trails, so you get that ruggedness, but the hills were not bad. Not bad at all. I did not have trekking poles yet, and I didn't feel like I needed them. I was never in doubt, and that was the first one that I did. And I, basically cruised through it, but I had to earn it. And then it's like, oh, so what, you just line up easy races for yourself, some easy victories? Oh no. Oh no, it will get much harder from there. And so we're gonna go next to the most difficult race. What makes a course difficult? Well, a number of factors. If you just look at the distance and the elevation, then it would look like the West Virginia Trail Fest was the clear winner. And that's 36 miles, 7,000 feet of elevation. It was actually a very generous footing. West Virginia falls behind, actually. So elevation is definitely one of the big ones, but one of the biggest factors to affect difficulty is the technicality of the course. What does the term technical terrain mean? Well, it's this: running over rocks, roots, all kinds of unevenness. Basically an obstacle course, but it's fun. So, was Maine the most difficult course? It was not. I thought it was going to be, but in the end, it was not even really that close. The most difficult course goes to Macedonia Brook State Park in Kent, Connecticut. The Macedonia 50K. I mean, absolutely brutal slog all day long. This next category we're going to call the course that had the last laugh. Now, I did finish all of these races, so they had a happy ending, but did any of these courses get the better of me? Oh yeah, big time. One of them did. No, the course that got the better of me, it was not even close. That would be the Blue Hill Mountain 50K in Maine. Now you might be thinking, you just said Connecticut was the most difficult course. How could that not be the one that got the last laugh? Yes, well, like I said, there's other things that might not show up on the scorecard, such as the state you were in at the end of the race. I did not eat nearly enough during the race. Now, this race started at 5 a.m., so it's a huge accomplishment for even me to make the start of the race. I ate as much as I could beforehand, but there was only so much time, okay? So then we start the race, you figure I'm gonna get a lot of food at the aid stations, right? Well, they didn't have a lot of food at the aid stations. So as the day wore on, I'm not refueling, but I keep going and going. They had some bananas and cookies. I had some of that, but then it's like, okay, I can't just eat that all day long. I had a little bit of snacks and stuff in my car. I got a protein bar, some chips. So in any event, I finished the race, but by about this much. And then the problems started. But suffice it to say, I was not well for about 3 hours, and I did not know how to make it better until it finally got better. I could finally get some food in me, and then I went to sleep and then lived happily ever after. But I was in such bad shape that I'm thinking I don't want to do ultras ever again if it's going to be this bad. I mean, I felt so sick. It was on par with some of the worst hangovers I've ever had. You know, going back to like college days, you know, when you're like, why would someone ever drink alcohol? But I should put a positive spin on it, right? So let's call it the biggest lesson learned. The best lesson learned in the ultramarathons was make sure you always have food in the trunk of your car. And I mean like meal food. If I had just anticipated a little more, I could have had an Italian sub in a cooler in my trunk, and that's what I'm gonna do from now on. And next we have a very important category, Best Swag. Now remember, this is showing you what you can expect if you want to try any of these races, or just an ultramarathon in general, because in my experience, everything about it ramps up, especially the swag. If they're gonna give you a finisher medal, they're gonna go the extra mile to design it. Check that out. First, we have the Hat Run 50K, representing the state of Maryland. We got this nice hat and the umbrella, and that was both for finishing the race. By the way, usually for these you get something when you sign in, and then you get something else when you finish, which is a nice touch. It helps you stay motivated. But there is a third item that is not present that I got for signing up for the hat run, and that was a very nice pair of black performance athletic shorts. Then next, in the state of West Virginia, we have the Full Moon 60K. Now for signing in, I got this shirt, this hat, and this shirt. So the 2 shirts, because this was the first year they did the race and I was one of the first 100 people to sign up. So it pays to be early. And then for finishing this triumphant journey through the railroads and everything, I got this railroad steak. Like, I know I earned every ounce of this. This is like worth its weight in gold to me. Next from Pennsylvania, we have the Sharp Top 50K. All right, so another nice shirt. And you see a lot of these races, they design their own logo, and that's a nice touch. So, Maston, Pennsylvania. And then for finishing the race, a very nice pint glass. And next from the state of Maine, we have the Blue Hill Mountain Trail Fest. We have another nice t-shirt with a great logo, another great hat, and very well-designed finisher medal. And finally, from the state of Connecticut, we have the Macedonia 50K. Now, for signing up, I got another nice tech shirt with another nice logo, and this coaster. Suffice it to say, I reached the summit of my potential that day. The best swag. I feel like I gotta give it to the Hat Run 50K. One of the main things that made my first ultras so memorable was the conditions. There were terrible rain conditions the whole day, and there was an epic creek crossing that was about up to our waists and raging rapids. So after all that rain, it was fitting that I got an umbrella at the end. But this is no ordinary umbrella. Check this out. I mean, if I'm standing up, this is like up to my waist, okay? And then when I opened it, I thought this is the biggest umbrella I've ever seen in my life. It's like, I'm gonna get you, Batman! Ah! Then they got the logo right there. And I mean, probably for the rest of my life, whenever I'm running in the rain, I'm gonna think of my first ultra and those conditions. And so that leads us right into the next category, best aid stations. Any runner would want to know that, right? The Maryland, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia races all had outstanding aid stations where there's like buffets, there's cooked stuff laid out, and there's a lot of options with hearty meal type food. And someone like me needs that to finish the race. I'm like, I guess, beginner level ultramarathon runner. So I'm seeing other people just boop, 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 you know, do a little nibbling on some pears here and there and stuff. I'm not at that level yet. I need to chow down. So, who had the best aid stations? Well, I would have to give it to the West Virginia Trail Fest, presented by the Athletic Equation. But I mean, in this particular course, it was covering a 36-mile distance, point to point, meaning it starts and ends at a different place. And so they had to go the extra mile to have these aid stations out there for you. And there were a number of times where I was stopped for like 20 minutes or something because I had to just wait until I could eat. I had a big bowl of ramen noodles, like at 3 different points. By far the hardest race I had ever done at that point. And being fully stocked in my stomach, I think, was really what made the difference and gave me victory that day. So, thank you, Athletic Equation. Now, as we pass Ridley Creek itself in the background, we come to perhaps my favorite category, the best nature moment. This is serious business. When I sign up for a trail race or an ultramarathon, I want it to be out in nature and a real experience, a journey, a trek through nature, and that really makes it feel so much better when you finally cross the finish line. I mean, it started off with what might go down as the wildest weather conditions that I'll ever race in, and that was the Hat Run 50K, where it was raining for 12 hours, pouring hard, 12 hours before the race started and during the race. So by the time we got to the creek crossing, it looked like it was a scene out of Indiana Jones or something. Then the Sharp Top 50K, I mean, it rained hard again, but that was more like fun rain. There was also like this mist in the air the whole time. That course felt very dreamlike that day. And I saw a rattlesnake on the course. So I mean, how often is that gonna happen? In Maine, I feel like I'm in Lord of the Rings. I would give that a 10 on the Lord of the Rings scale. Connecticut, I gave that a 9 on the Lord of the Rings scale. So which course had the best nature moment? Well, if you just saw all the videos and you get the eyeball, you would think it's got to be Hat Run, right? With that creek crossing, like how is that ever going to be equaled? No, I'm going to have to give it to the Sharp Top 50K in Maston, Pennsylvania. And not just because of the rattlesnake, but because of the overwhelming contributions that it made in the nature department. I mean, there was wildlife, there was weather that made it very ethereal. Oh, by the way, I got lost on the course, so that's sort of a nature experience. When I say lost, I mean I was off the course. I wasn't totally lost, but that was kind of part of like, whoa, you're really in nature now. So what was the best overall race experience? If we're just to add up all the categories, all the points that you scored, the best overall, I felt like it was a 2-horse race. When I got back from West Virginia, I was like, how is this not the top race of the year? It's gotta be. It's gonna be hard to top it. And then when I signed up for Maine, I said, this one can really compete. Maine is gonna have the visuals. Well, it turned out that it was raining that day. I almost died from lack of nutrition. Not really, but I was really sick. That race kind of had like a storm cloud over it, figuratively and literally. And then at the end of the year, there was the Macedonia 50K in Connecticut, and that one really blew my mind. It was so epic, it was so good looking, it was so difficult that I'm thinking that might have been the race of the year. So it was very close between West Virginia and Connecticut. And so the award for Joey B's Best Ultramarathon Race of 2024 goes to the state of West Virginia. That's right, the West Virginia Trail Fest. I mean, if I'm to add up all the different aspects, it's just checking off way too many boxes. I mean, a 36-mile course, not repeated a single step, starting at a railroad park, ending at the top of a ski resort. You had to go up and down the ski slopes, went on the mountain biking courses, I traveled over the dense forest trails, over creek crossings, traveled over backcountry residential streets. I mean, it really had it all, and it was very tough, but it wasn't punishing either. It was pretty generous on the footing. I saw mountains peeking out of the clouds. It looked like it was Lord of the Rings or something. Like the moment that I climbed the second fire tower, and I think almost 30 miles into the race at that point. I've been running all day, and I climbed the second fire tower, and amidst this sea of pine trees, off in the distance, I see what is obviously ski slopes, and I said, that's it! There's the finish line! The finish line is in sight! It's all the way over there though, like I can make it! And it would still be another like 2 hours before I actually got there, but it was just such an amazing experience, top to bottom. But I mean, if you think of golf, I think of ultra marathons and trail running similar to golf. You're playing the course, and the course is different. This was no ordinary course. This was designed by a master course maker, I'm convinced. So thank you, whoever you are. I mean, it made me think of like, you know, Jack Nicklaus, one of the greatest golfers ever, and then like he designs the course himself. It felt like that. So, thank you, all 5 states. It's an amazing experience, and I'm gonna be back for more. I wanna see if I can get it to 10 ultramarathons before I repeat a state. And speaking of that, if you enjoyed this content, stay tuned, check back in a couple months. It was actually earlier today, I signed up for Ultramarathon number 6, and that's coming up on March 23rd, 2025. And we're gonna go to the state of New Jersey for the Terror of Tammany 50K. Yeah, it's gonna suck. Because in my experience, when they put words like terror in the title, they're not messing around. So, yeah. I don't think it's gonna be worse than Connecticut, maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Check back in then. I'll see you then.